Alright, folks. Welcome back. 皆さん、お帰りなさい。今日は、27日目です。It is day 27. Sort of a late start. Kind of got caught up in talking about random topics. I just get caught up. It's about language learning. Maybe that'll serve as our little short story for a future session, or maybe later today. Who knows? Always working on those stories to share. All right, that kind of brings us closer. Oh, it's after 8, so then it leads into our review. 44 review exercises. That's interesting. We will probably get our one lesson on probably old. I don't actually know if there is a common onyomi for old, so I guess I'll find out. If not, it could be something like furui. At least I think furui is kunyomi. Sounds like kunyomi. What is old in? Oh wait, that's not even the same character. I don't actually know what the read is on that character. Who? Chinese. In terms of old, like the meaning old is Lao. The Lao is the closest thing that I know. Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks like Ku or Gu, maybe. Be interesting. So let's go. I'm gonna remind myself, what the heck did I do yesterday? I accidentally jumped the gun and wrote writing maybe for this instead of stand, right? To stand. And I wrote shi because I was thinking of the mnemonic. That was one that I wasn't very great on, like she cheated, but it's actually she because we're talking about the standalone, not like, you know, she, uh, like she for, wait, what context was she for? Got the month, so she got to, the heck? Oh, it was largely wait, actually I have no idea. What was the context for, oh no. Just kidding. Chi, I was getting it confused with seven. Seven chi. That's better. Yeah. Seven. So this is on and yon and chi. Actually, was it something? I feel like there's something else here. Oh no, just kidding. I'm getting it mixed up with seven. Yon. Yawn? What's the mnemonic for this? Something about yawning? No. Legs. Oh yeah, the folding. Folding the legs into a into a box that looks like a sheep. I don't know. This one was a little weird. You look like a square with four sides. Wait, what was the one with the sheep? Oh yeah, here it is. The four-sided square and looking like a four-sided animal, the sheep. It's a really far leap. All right. Although in Ko's writing, the majority of anything that has sheep, right, standing for sheep, he tends to keep it consistent with sheep analogies. So whenever and then things like chi often cheese comes up. So you can kind of see the collective. I kind of like it. I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna be able to summarize it maybe in 50 days. or 100 days or something, we'll do a review, and I will see how many overlapping themes that occurred in WaniKani. That those overlapping themes will be the ones that really show up because they come up very often, like cheese for chi and chi for sheep. And then Ko specifically mentioned things like oh, right? And then yo. So we'll see how many of them kind of sticks. Like, oh yeah. Now we gotta think of a mnemonic that deals with sheep, because it kind of do that. It would work pretty well if you unified the mnemonics based on what they sound like, so you keep everything consistent. Where when someone makes a mnemonic, right? When you have to learn something like hitsuyo, right? Hitsuyo, you could use hi, which is heat. Heat came up multiple times for hi, and tsu. Tsu could be you. They Ko writes a lot of things that deal with like shutsu, right? Like you, and things like eat, like itsu, right? Itsu, that kind of thing can really end up unifying a lot of the building blocks. So then you would have English counterpart mnemonics that you build on top of things. I'm already feeling like itsu every time I read the word eat, like to eat something, I think of itsu, which is very effective if it comes to like a building block. Oh, they're cozy. So I'll try to collect as many as possible. I think Kevin, the person who's R&Ding and developing Hansa Hero, started their project with the vision of trying to create building blocks, right? Mnemonics are the building blocks. WaniKani, not as much, right? However, that doesn't necessarily mean have any rhyme or reason to unify certain things. There are examples of Ko being one of them, right? They said every time like this Ko comes up, because Ko is a really regular read in Japanese, and all the U's like yo, cho, along with Ko, will have a unifying mnemonic, which Kevin is also doing. However, Kevin is developing something for Chinese. So Chinese, it's the same but different, right? The way the sounds are distributed is treated a little differently. So they came up with a different type of unifying building block. That means using the pinyin system instead as a model. It would be kind of interesting if anyone raised since Kevin is living in Taiwan, it would be kind of interesting to see what Kevin will do in the future, like integrating what is that? Oh, it's called Juin? Ju, I think it's called Ju, or like Mapo Mofo, or however you pronounce it. Juin Fu Hao or something, or just simply Juin. I actually don't know what the tone is, but I'm kind of curious if they're like, oh yeah, might as well learn the other, the Taiwan's pinyin, pronunciation system. That'd be kind of fun to learn as well. I still haven't decided when I would try to dabble in IPA, largely because I'm curious. You see it, I see it far more often now that I'm language learning, the whole IPA system. But yeah. Anyways, things to think about in the future. All right, so let's get on our 44 reviews. Oh, I almost typed in Chinese. Whoops. I didn't know if I needed two, but that's not a verb. So keep that straight. You were curious if you streamed today? Yeah, I got kind of carried away. So, you know, investments, right? Investments. We were already talking to Discord. So I gotta find a place to for the day. I mean, I'm on break now from the Duolingo thing, so I think I'm just gonna wait until the next peak day. So I have like three break days, including today, before I do my Duolingo Chinese review. So plenty of time, and that leaves me with like 2.5 weeks for Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Chinese and Japanese playthrough. That wouldn't be too bad. I think it's like 2 or 3 days, probably. Going pretty well, Cozy. How are you doing from yesterday? You should save your Duolingo pics in Discord. My Duolingo pic. What do you mean? My Duolingo pics. The words you write on Krita? Nah, we'll always write them again. And it's already in the video, so perfectly. I just go look back on the video. Perfectly fine. I don't actually save any of those documents. Largely because they're either recorded and I know that I can do it again. They do get converted into something else. But yeah, it is fun to record some of those things. The things that I know I'll do again and again, I usually don't save them. I do record me doing them. All the experience stays with me. How many kanji we on now? We haven't learned any new. We haven't picked up much kanji since we started WaniKani because Duolingo stopped at day 300 for me to review them. So for now, it's we did do a count though. It was 700 kanji and then whatever one or two every once in a while that WaniKani covers that haven't been covered. In Duolingo. We haven't moved in Duolingo for like all of WaniKani period, actually. And since I know these numbers, I'm also doing the Duolingo Chinese wrap up, right? And Chinese is at 860 to 900, so it largely covers almost all of HSK 1 through 3 as they suggested, with a few like occasionally in 5 or 6, but usually most of the 900 in HSK 1 through 3. And then Duolingo is supposedly supposed to end around, at the tail end of JLP or something like that. So there's plenty of other things for Duolingo. And these things like WaniKani and Hanzehiro, which are the companions, they are expected to cover in terms of vocabulary and characters spanning all of the curriculum. Although now we're going to do things in video games and whatnot, regardless if I'm ready or not for it, because the time presents it. So in a Like a Dragon Yakuza Pirate Yakuza is coming out on February 21st. So regardless of how much Japanese or Chinese we know, by then we're gonna play those games then. Before we do that though, I put off playing Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth in Chinese and Japanese. Chinese and Japanese beforehand, so I can like get a summary and review of that stuff. That was the whole point of stopping for language learning. Japanese or Chinese first? English is first. But what comes second is usually Chinese, because Chinese doesn't have any other form. I don't have like a Duolingo replacement yet. But English is first, of course. We play English first. Largely to the chagrin of a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, but the Japanese cast is great. It's like, they're all great. Actually, I still haven't heard the Chinese cast. So Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the same series, last February. It was released last February, 2024. They added a Chinese cast. And I still haven't heard anything from outside of like voice samples, like video clips. I've seen some video clips of the voice cast of some of the main characters. And they sound really great. And actually, because of the way Sega uses their rigging, their like animation rigging, all the scenes that are not pre-rendered. There are a few pre-rendered here and there, but if they're not pre-rendered, they also try to make the mouth articulation match Mandarin, which is fun. It's like fun to just stare at their mouth. There's something very interesting about looking at animation, like characters that are animated, like modeled, and then seeing how much they do with the rigging work to match the lip motions. So I was like, I did this for Japanese and English a lot of times, and usually when you're playing Japanese games and then they have a English cast as well, I full stop just stare at the character's mouth most of the time. Like, yep, that's good. Ooh, that's really good. And the thing about Like a Dragon games, there are a lot of close-ups, and there is a lot of people just standing around and talking. So you're just staring. It's like, what is more entertaining than looking at their mouth shapes? Like, nice. So it's pretty cool. And then when the character models are emoting, but they're emoting in the foreign language, it goes a long way. Like I think Like a Dragon is still easily one of my like, I'm absolutely a fan, especially now that they cover 3 languages. I think it's very, very difficult to show the appreciation for something that I would say a vast majority of people who play video games do not care. Like, what it means is, you like, have I ever played Sekiro? Sekiro, I did not play Sekiro. I watch from soft games nowadays. I don't usually play but anymore. Like however, I did watch my friend play it, and then I watch a couple of like people who like that kind of stuff. Like I watch Maximilian play Sekiro. But I myself do not find I gravitate towards something that is lore based and not have a great attention to narrative design. Sekiro is more of a mechanical design, and I think after playing 1 or 2 FromSoft games, I'm kind of okay with that. I prefer to consume the visual stuff and the lore with my eyes and ears as opposed to my hands. It's a very wonderful setting. I like Sekiro's setting. Western fantasy, like dark fantasy, because FromSoft games and dark fantasy. Dark fantasy is okay. I honestly think it's a little bit overrepresented or overhyped when it comes to FromSoft. Because before FromSoft there was dark fantasy, right? So, and it's Western dark fantasy. Granted, it's more about the game. People who really enjoy that type of game, it's the feel. So I would say no, I don't really know what it's like to play Sekiro because it doesn't excite me as much. I like watching people play FromSoft games though. I really do. They enjoy it far more than I do. Most of the friends that I've made over the years, or maybe like acquaintances online, they usually gravitate towards mechanical games, and that's one of them. It would be a different story if someone said, hey, watch me play Talos Principle. If someone goes out of their way and say, watch me play Talos Principle, I'll be all up in that. In fact, I would probably play along with them. Like, we would have a co-stream where both of us decide. I thought about this a long time ago, but I would need someone who is like contractually obligated to do this in order to make the project work. But I have often thought about doing what a few other channels have done, where they had two people who are very interested in indie games. Talos Principle might not necessarily qualify, largely an indie game. Do side-by-side plays in fixed sessions. So like we would be co-hosting stream together thing, and it would be two people playing simultaneously with different perspectives, and we'll provide commentary on each other's personal progress while we're playing. How about Neo? Neo, same difference. Same but different, right? Neo has a different combat system, which I'm also familiar with, because that is it's Team Ninja, right? So I am familiar with Team Ninja's games too, because of Ninja Gaiden, right? So after that exposure, I usually watch people play Team Ninja's games too. So Wolong would be the most as an iteration on Team Ninja's. Although Team Ninja recently announced Ninja Gaiden 4, right? Which, that's a big deal, and Sub-Zero already asked me about Ninja Gaiden 4, which I'm not entirely sure if 10 years is too long. Maybe we'll play Ninja Gaiden 4. I also played the first DOA, which is also a Team Ninja thing, the fighting game. DOA, Dead or Alive. I played a lot of first, and then not so much after. The longest franchise I've ever played, Naraka. Naraka is multiplayer, and I've since retired from multiplayer. I like watching people play multiplayer, but Naraka Blade Point is multiplayer. It's Royale, and I actually haven't touched a Royale after. The closest thing to a Royale is Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Like, I don't usually touch free-for-alls anymore. I watch people play though, and sometimes when like those battle royale games, like Royale is a add-on addition to a standalone experience, I can find myself playing those. However, Nanaka is also Max plays these, so shout out to like Max Milling, dude. He bought these. In fact, he is one of the DLC things. Like, he's actually a character. I'm pretty sure there was a collab, so you might be able to recognize who I'm referring to if you play Nanaka. Yeah, I haven't played any multiplayer games in a very, very long while. My last one was Overwatch. That kind of gives you an idea of where 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 that fell off. So like I don't, I haven't dabbled in Fortnite, um, Valorant, Apex Legends. I think there's one that people would ask, and I'm like, it is possible. Would be probably like Path of Exile, because it's been like 15, maybe over 10 years since I touched an ARPG like Diablo 1 and 2. So there is Path of Exile, or you could go to the multiplayer thing and say, what is the one game, the Korean one? Ark? No. They call it Ark? Lost Ark? Yeah, Lost Ark. Would be kind of not multiplayer, but multiplayer at the same time. That would be probably the closest thing. Otherwise, I typically play like, there is a chance I play a survival multiplayer game, but not like PvP oriented, but more like survival. So survival and exploration. So it's not something like Rust or Ark Survivor, but more like the last one I played was Valheim with people that aren't here anymore. And that was back when I played Never with them. So Valheim was the last time we did something like that. So possible games are like Son of the Forest, right? Which, or Forest before that. There is 2 indie games that are becoming cooperative, and I am trying. It's these are not wave based, these are exploration based, but there are wave based ones too. The last time I played a wave based one was Gunfire Reborn, but that was also roguelike wave based one, with the same person. I'm trying to convince this person, this goober that I know for a while, when Subnautica 2 comes out, that we would do a cooperative Subnautica 2 run. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to convince this person, largely because that ain't it, Chief, in his words. Like he's not great with water and thalassophobia, and I totally understand, because I would say like, let's agree to play like only 1 to 2 hour a day, because it's really stressful. Yeah, Gunfire, I played with this guy in Gunfire. And then another game called The Long Dark. The second game was announced, The Long Dark 2, and it's also a cooperative survival game. So both Subnautica and Long Dark, which has a long history of great community support and whatnot, their next sequel naturally are going to be cooperative. So Long Dark 2 and Subnautica 2 might be the next time there's a chance we'll be playing something with other people. The last time I tried a couple of times, the last game that I played that was streamed was with one of my personal best friends. However, because of scheduling and meandering interests, it was a Warhammer Dark Tides, Warhammer 40k Dark Tides, and it was early in the launch days and then live service model, so it took a little while for Fat Shark to get their gears in place and whatnot. The game is doing really well now, but that's been now it's been like a year since I've touched Dark Tides. So when we were talking about all the launch issues or launch issues as in psychological issues and consumer issues, and over time I'm like, we know Vermintide, how long it took, and etc. It's cognitive dissonance, it's the expectations, kind of like Payday 3 is going through that ropes again because of live service turnover situation. So Fat Shark turned it around, which was expected because that's how Vermintide was like too, before it. So there are some games along the horizon. For now, there is only one game planned, and that's Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza, and it typically only lasts like 150 hours, which is going to be a very long time now because I have to do language learning on top of that. Before, I used to play for like 8 to 10 hours a day. And then by the time like 150 to 200 hour rolls over, I will be able, you know, I will be able to conclude the project. But now it's probably gonna last I'm starting to worry when I'm gonna start Duolingo Spanish. So because Yakuza Pirates might take a while. Largely because now I'm underestimating how long WaniKani is gonna and Hansa Hero. I didn't actually plan for Hansa Hero, and now here we are. You played Warhammer way back in the day, early Xbox days. 40k? Oh, like wait, which Warhammer are we talking about? I don't remember Xbox Warhammer. One was it? A Games Workshop likes to like throw out their IP a lot back in the day, and most of those games are not as wait, actually back in the day, how far back are we talking about? Are we still talking about like maybe yeah, there are a lot of 40k games because Games Workshop just they just throw their IP at different developers over and over. Right now, 40k's biggest titles are probably Space Marine, right? Space Marine 1 and 2, and probably Rogue Trader on the PC, and the Sega collaborations, the Total War collaborations, are under the Warhammer banner too. But that's not 40k. I think that's only Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah, and then Fact Charts, Dark Tide, early Xbox 60. Is that still Space Marines? I'm pretty sure that's Space Marines, right? Yeah. Did you get a chance to play? It's probably 40k Space Marines. The other ones didn't do so bad. But the Xbox 360, I remember there was the first Space Marines under the 40k banner came out. And then the other game I'm pretty sure was a Warhammer fantasy game where it's very different, right? 40k and fantasy are two things. Space Marines are doing well. So the Space Marines 2 is a very great game for anyone who's interested in playing who have played Space Marine. Like bigger, better, like I've heard great things. I watched people play, like Carnage played Space Marine 2. Actually, plays a lot of games that I'm interested in that I don't have time to play because he has access to indies and all that stuff. And he's not language learning, for example. But it'd be kind of cool to. I would love to see some of the people that I watch each day, see how they interact and deal with language learning. You know, like engage with language learning. However, obviously, that's a conflict of interest. Typically, have that. Like for example, while should I usually think of these people very fondly, so it is a personal bias. But covers the realm of gaming that I follow and almost preferentially select. However, Max represents the personality that I would typically adopt, which is if someone is very interested in something, I tend to be interested in. And if I have a lull period, like, oh, no one interacts with me and no one is telling me or suggesting things and sharing their experiences, then I would default to certain things I prefer, which are indie games most of the time. So any interesting indie game, I think I'll throw out something that I'm very interested in. I'm the owner of Hades 2. I bought it on day one in early access, and I'm waiting for the 1.0 launch. And Supergiant Games is forecasting sometime. It used to be, it was originally forecast in November of 2024, but since then, like Supergiant Games do, they keep on working on the game, and the 1.0 launch tentative, so sometime this year. So I'll be playing Hades 2 whenever they hit 1.0. I typically buy lots of games in advance because I believe in the developer. And another one that I can't actually, I now that I think about it, I didn't record Hades either. Hades was before I started recording for YouTube, so there's no footage of me playing Hades as well. I played a lot of indie games, at least 20 to 30 indie games over like a 1 year period most of the time before I started language, like 20 to 30, and we do completionist those. Another game would be the spiritual sequel to Crypt of the Necrodancer. It is a rhythm game now, that like it was already a rhythm game then, but now it's an input rhythm game. So that's coming out soon. Actually, I think it's this month. It might be this month or next month. It's going to be in early access. So I don't know if it's a 1.0 launch. If it's a 1.0 launch, you'll probably find me playing it. If not, I will. Yeah, so Hades 2 is probably going to be the thing that's like, oh, if it happens, we're going to have to make time for it. Like, language learning has to take a negotiation. And then Crypt of the Necrodancer, because I want to play a rhythm game, a different take on a rhythm game. And story games. Lots of different types of story games are still in my backlog, and those will be integrated with language learning. And then like 30 or 40, there's like 30 or 40 puzzle games, like 30 or 40 story games, 30 or 40 deck builders. They're an immense amount. Now the thing is, I don't play these games unless I run out of interesting things to do. And interesting things involve other people sharing them. So right now, instead of trying to squeeze in like a 13 to 14-hour stream, I rest my voice and I watch anime. You want to try Necromancer? Yeah, the first game is a hit. It's a darling as well. And then their sequel, like indie developers do be doing, is entirely mechanically unrelated to the first game. However, the environment and the lore is related. Like I like SteamWorld games, and I think I still haven't played SteamWorld Heist 2. I liked the first one, SteamWorld Heist, and I also really liked SteamWorld Hang of Gilgamesh, which was the deck builder. SteamWorld Heist was the 2D strategy, turn-based strategy game, and that had a sequel, which I haven't played yet. And then I think there is an announcement for the sequel to Hand of Gilgamesh at some point, so I'm looking forward to that. There are quite a lot of indie, and I really enjoy indie games because they perpetuate the two things that I really like about video games, and often they are separated in AAA titles and AA titles. A persistent world, a persistent lore, persistent stories, while inevitably changing mechanics. Final Fantasy used to be my jam, right? That was the whole philosophy behind Final Fantasy. They kept taking risks. Your lore, sort of, the lore and the storytelling is held not consistently, but the quality of it is. And then the mechanics, they constantly take chances on the mechanics. Nowadays, though, AAA titles, AA titles, they cost a lot of money. And to take those risks consistently is a fool's errand for business and for investors, right? You want to invest in a company and suddenly their model is to constantly take risks. That's kind of scary. So indie games kind of fill that void. people can take risks because their projects are smaller. And now there's like a trend to making smaller investments. You're picky with deck builders? I can imagine largely how much I know you. And games that you need to build recipes, yeah, crafting and simulation games. Satisfactory would probably be something great. There are cozy games. Cozy games are always around, right? Stardew Valley had a recent update before. Not long ago, actually. Again, I forgot what the version is now. We'll just call it version 36,115 or something. I've yet to revisit Stardew Valley. I was one of the early peeps, like the, again, early access-ish peeps, and I played it in that state. And then now I haven't gone back yet. I go back to Stardew Valley at some as well. Core Keepers had a 1.0 launch, and that's a cooperative game. That little goober that I was talking about is playing with his friends with Core Keeper. So yeah, and Satisfactory I followed for a while, even before the 1.0 launch. I actually played Coffee Stain Studios is the name of Satisfactory's developer. They made a game called Sanctum 1 and 2, and that was a tower defense hero shooter, like the early days of tower defense character shooter. I will refer to it as character shooting. And that was the hybrid between having a character, an avatar that you shoot and do things while building in a three-dimensional space. So Sanctum 1 and 2 was fantastic. I even played their top-down traditional tower defense based on the Sanctum world. You were an alpha on Stardew? Yeah. Yeah, good old what is his name? Aaron? Barone? I keep forgetting his first name. It's Barone, or I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll go with Barone. Concerned Ape. Back in the day when he was only known as Concerned Ape. There is a deck builder tower defense game that I didn't touch yet called Tower of Liberation, which is a combination of a deck builder and tower defense. I think the gold standard tower defense game that I was incredibly impressed with, that was like the tower defense game to end all tower defense game the last time I played, was Defense Grid. And there was a sequel, and I didn't play the sequel, but the original Defense Grid, that's like mechanics though. That was a mechanical game. There are some personalities to it, a bit of personality to Defense Grid. However, there are character shooter tower defense games that are brimming with wonderful things like Orc Must Die, right? I think there's a sequel. I'm pretty sure the Orc Must Die developers recently announced a sequel, maybe like in the last month. But I really loved Orc Must Die 1, 2. I didn't play 2 I played because I played cooperative with someone but this is before the whole streaming thing. Plenty of games, lots of games, right? Anyways, throwing out a few games out there. I think the most obscure thing, maybe I can share one little interesting, the most obscure thing that I played that some people might have seen was Zachtronic games. They're logical system games. So more like programming language logic based games. Those are probably the most obscure games. Other than that, one thing I could say, like a cheeky nod, is I played someone's game before this person became viral. And it's one of those like, oh, I thought it was cool before it was cool. Kind of a goober, cheeky flex. It's Daniel Mullen's game. He's the guy who eventually broke out into virality with Inscription, the game Inscription, because he chose deck building as the he's easily one of the people that I would ascribe to breaking the fourth wall using a deck mechanic, using like game mechanics to be a central theme. So Inscription chose deck building. So the whole idea of the game, Daniel Mullen's games, is to subvert the genre by bending the genre, the mechanical side of the genre over and over again in order to present a overarching theme. So Inscription used deck building, but he had other games. He had Pony Island, X. X was a like it was like a 2D, like one of those like click and point adventure games that he did a lot of spin on. And then Pony Island was RPGs, like turn-based RPG. So it spiraled between and there's a sequel to it that was announced, and it has none other than Sung Won as one of the voice people. So that's kind of neat. I'm no stranger to hearing Sung Won having Sung Won having voice lines in English cast. Sung Won actually played a minor character in Like a Dragon series in the English when they started incorporating English cast. So Yakuza Like a Dragon, right? Getting Flags, etc. Pony Adventures. Oh, that game, yeah. Anyways, that's good. A good refreshing video game talk. I haven't talked about video games quite a lot lately because video games don't usually come up during language learning. Yeah, maybe Personas down the line. Persona's a default, right? Because I'm into slice of life integrated stuff. We got to get our hands on some material. Talking about games. Yeah, I've seen these before. Unless you're talking about a different type of game. Yeah, I'm not yeah. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing. You're gonna have to elaborate on the Pony game because Pony Island is something different. The Pony Island, the game, would I play space exploring games? I am the proud owner of a game that I have not played yet. And when it comes to space exploration, the game that I have is Outer Wilds. Oh, sorry. They're called Outer Wilds. I have not played that yet, but I also own that game. Space and sea games I do play, especially exploration games. I play a lot of exploration games. Without prior to like Outer Wilds would be the closest thing that I have that I would choose to voluntarily play. Although not a single person has brought up Outer Wilds voluntarily yet. So I also play a lot of surrealistic games. So things about depression, metaphors, lots of surrealism, overcoming adversity, life after death, or regrets, like inner demons, that kind of thing. Exploring the mind, so to speak. I haven't played Psychonauts sequel yet as well. At some point I did play Psychonauts first game. And then, Psychonauts sequel. That's not necessarily space exploration, but it's exploring the mind, which is it has a lot of parallelism, exploring the blue sea and space. And this is very different from things like Starfield. Like that's not going to probably not playing Starfield. The odds of playing Starfield are so low. So not in that regards, but Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is probably All right, all right, all right. Oh, it's great to talk about all these things, but it's largely hypothetical, right? Largely because time, probably time. I don't want to make any promises. What is set in stone for games is the games that I can predict right now are a set time. Yeah, Pwn Adventures. Yes. Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Pwn Adventures. Yeah, there are a lot of Pwn Adventures. Unless you pronounce it Pawn, but there are quite a lot of those. Are these like those like mini? Yes. I have no experience. I actually know very, very little other than the namesake and a few like thumbnails, a few thumbnails that come up. There are a few like channels I watch about video games that deal with obscure things, or like hidden gems or microcosmic, micro like cosm s communities, the little patch communities. I like to get check out what the hipsters are doing. I like to say I'm somewhat of a dabbling hipster, things like that. The most mainstream game you'll probably ever catch me playing is Like a Dragon. Possibly Persona in the future. Possibly Persona, largely because it overlaps with like. What was the most? Yeah, and then before that was CDPR. So you might see me play Witcher again. Yeah, I am a CDPR fan. And the game before the I only had a few launch games that I've ever played over the course of the last 10 years, and one of them was Cyberpunk 2077. And contrary to a lot of people's chagrin and whatnot, I did not succumb to the hype, and I also found the game incredibly satisfying and remarkable achievement. And now I would even recommend it to the vast majority of audience because CDPR stands by their products, right? Again, investing in the developer as opposed to investing in what I want their games to be. However, CDPR is going back to Witcher, so and then they already dropped a cinematic trailer as they often do for Witcher 4. So probably see me play all of the Witcher games again at some point because I'll probably do a legacy. So whenever a new sequel comes out and I decide to play that sequel, I'll probably do a legacy recording. So that'll happen because I played a lot of games in the first 4 or 5 years and none of them were. It only started on the 6th year. I told myself 5 years of messing around, doing some practice, all that, and then start doing some formal recording. And the first game I chose was Chrono Trigger, right? And I have yet to play the available remaster of Chrono Cross. Will Witcher gonna be the same though? I hope it's not the same. I don't like same. Witcher 1 to Witcher 2 was a great change, and then Witcher 2 to Witcher 3 was very different too. And then Witcher 3 to 4, I hope to expect very different. But if you think about it, CDPR's track record is to be it's very surface level to guess like, oh, it's in the same universe. So at least the developers that I invest in, I expect them to be the same. So like a Dragon games, the core of how the game plays, come in 2 iterations all the time. Every 2 games, they dramatically change the mechanical side of things, and every 2 games, the mini games and stuff, and the centerpiece of all the content is dramatically changed. What is persistent is the feeling of togetherness, lore, and the stories. But creatively, the lore and stories are creative in the nature of their writing. So I hope that, in my opinion, CDPR does not remake the same mechanics. That's why I don't gravitate toward from software design. I don't particularly like iterative, heavy iterative design. So generally speaking, that's kind of why I gravitate towards the indie scene. I typically go back and forth. So I wait for a substantial amount of time and a substantial amount of emotional investment before I hit back something. That's what you mean. Is the core of the game going to stay the same? I hope it's not. And I know exactly what you meant. And that's what I mean. I do not believe that CDPR is a developer that like to keep the core of the game very similar. They might. They are a publicly traded company, and they do have investors, and it is a AAA title. So if it's the same, I'll still play it. That's irrelevant to. I don't have to say anything about whether it's same or different. I play the game because, like Hades 2, for example. Is it going to be the same? Well, it's an iterative design. So, yeah. Like, the reason why I'm saying this and I'm trying to clarify is largely because you were suggesting if it was going to be the same as opposed if it's going to be different. There are 2 different kind of telling. I talked to Gecko about video games the last couple of days. Gecko is working right now. Gecko is in Belgium. Started really good to chat. But he also has the same preference or a similar preference where he focuses capturing similar feels, like the same feels or a comforting feel. And I differ dramatically regard things like originality or being original and iterating on, and things like I think the example he gave specifically regard was he preferentially like the originals as opposed to like covers, like cover songs. And I guess you could kind of see it that way, a sequel being something iterated on the thing. Historically, CDPR is not one not take risks. So that's why I like the developer. If so, then it would end up being a Gearbox situation. Gearbox is a great example of me falling out of interest. Naturally, I fall out of interest. I understand my own biases. The before Cyberpunk 2077 was my pre-launch order. I don't typically buy games on launch. The last title before that was Borderlands 2. And from Borderlands 1 to Borderlands 2, it's that iterative design, right? And then Borderlands 3 was iterating on that, so I stopped playing. Went away, Borderlands. And then Borderlands 4 was recently teased. So am I interested? No. I watch people play though. So I am interested in watching other people play. I consume the story aspect and the lore and the people that are involved, but I'm not interested. Iteration is like saying it's not interesting to learn another language because you already know the core mechanics of your using language. Did I play pre-sequel? I did try to play pre-sequel with the same person that I played Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, and we played for like 30 minutes and then we stopped. That's when we stopped. I watched people play Tiny Tina's Wonder. And I'll probably continue. Oh, and Sub-Zero asked me again, this is very important too. The biggest game of February, Monster Hunter Wilds. I basically said the same. Sub-Zero. I played Monster Hunter World quite a lot, and it was a big part of my streaming back then. I played a lot of Monster Hunter World, and then after that, you know, Monster Hunter Rise got Nintendo, and then it eventually came on PC, and mechanically, I'm not interested. However, a lot of the content creators that I watch are going to play Monster Hunter Wilds with their friends and whatnot. I do not have professional and or friends who have that amount of time, so Monster Hunter Wilds is no. However, Monster Hunter Wild comes out 3 days, roughly, or like within the week of each other. So Monster Hunter and Yakuza Pirate, like Pirate Yakuza, is within the same week. So I wouldn't be able to delegate that if I wanted to. Right. It's not like hating on other people. I actually like watching other people play in their comfort zone. I enjoy studying people's behavioral patterns and how they react. And part of the experience of watching sequels after sequels doing iterative design is to understand through other people, because I do not get that vicarious. I do not get that firsthand interest. It's very intellectually it's not intellectually stimulating. I really thought I was going to do this. The first thing I've ever done in video games is play racing simulator and arcade simulator, like vehicle. I started with rallycross games, and I played Dirt 3, and I played Dirt 4, and I just stopped. So it just didn't happen. Like I own Dirt Rally 1.0 and I own Dirt Rally 2.0, but I didn't play any of them because after I thought about it, it's like, yeah, I can't. I'm a dilettante when it comes to game theory. I like bigger pictures, bigger perspective. So I'm constantly following a developer that is really, really good at what they do. I watch other people. Yeah, and then there's the Codemaster stuff, like also the entire Codemaster series, the rest of them, and then the competing series, like there are lots of racing. Yeah. Not to mention like the early ones like Activision's series, right? Need for Speed and what. Actually, the very first racing game that I played was actually Need for Speed 2, published by Activision. And then I played all of the Burnout games. So back when I was a wee young lad, you know, that dopamine-driven thing, I played Burnout 1 through 4 and stopped because that's when the PlayStation 2 era ended. 4 was called Revenge, Burnout Revenge, or was it Dominator? It was probably Revenge. And then eventually Criterion Games got bought up by Activision, and then now they got relegated to maintaining Need for Speed. Not before Burnout Horizon, no, Burnout Paradise was released, and I own Burnout Paradise, but I didn't play it. Yep, I own a lot of different sequels that I'm like, yeah, you know, it might come up, but it has to be mechanically like something. I need other people to be interested in order for me to be like, I want to view mechanics from different. I want to view mechanics from the lens of someone else. So I don't typically watch very specific anime or manga without understanding or having a motivation to understand someone else's perspective. So my excess time that free time that I'm using now is I basically watched I watched all of Attack on Titan in the last 2 weeks from the start. I watched Vinland Saga season 1 and 2, and then PlayStation games, Final Fantasy Tactics. Now we have a lot of PlayStation, but like those are all the first eras too, right? I played Crash Bandicoot, right? I have all the first eras of PlayStation, especially Crash, and I haven't since want to play another. And then all the early days, before we even jumped to PlayStation 2, there's still like Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter kind of thing, Banjo Kazooie for PlayStation, PlayStation era stuff. What else? I didn't play. Oh, well, here's a caveat though. I haven't played lots of Nintendo stuff. So like no, like Mario 60. I did play it when my friend had that. So Mario 64's exposure is due to friend owning Nintendo console. Like even for like the game Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, not. We're going back to a point where money problem now. So like money and privilege problem. So less so now. Here in this day and age, my Steam library accounts for all the games. So oftentimes when someone say, "Oh, have you played this?" It's like I haven't played it, but I own it. Or quote unquote, I have a license, right? I have a license of it because I support the developer. I openly talk about the developers' actual content, their game. Actually, yeah, this can go very, very deep because I also owned a Sega Saturn, a Sega CDX before that, and a Sega Genesis. And without saying much, Sega is still here. So all the stuff that I can say about Sega, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, I didn't own a Dreamcast because that's when PlayStation happened. Sega's still here. So I wouldn't be surprised one day that I'll talk about Sega Genesis, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, because Sega is a preservationist. It's a preservationist developer. So many of those games will be back in preservation in video game. Like Crazy Taxi, like gonna be a new thing, right? Crazy Taxi. Your 100 of games not being played on Steam. Yeah, I choose strategically to play the games, but I also buy games to believe in the developer. So I don't think I've ever purchased a game in which I said, I'm going to play this game. I purchased the game because I want the developers. Very different mindset in buying games. I didn't buy hundreds of games thinking I would play them. I buy them because so it's one of those things like Duolingo, for example. Why would I buy a 1-year subscription to Super if I could already do all the things I want to support Duolingo? It's not that, and then someone would argue like, well, that's only like bucks. They make millions of dollars. It's like, yeah, but there are millions of me, right? It's kind of like the way people think about voting, right? Like, well, you only have one vote, yes, but if everyone thinks like you, then there would be no people voting, right? It's not a 0 or a 1. It's about statistics. Population statistics being used as rationality for individual decision making is erroneous, gigantic. But when it comes to video games, that happens also. When someone says like, "Oh, you have thousands of games," I thought, these are in my backlog. I plan to play them. I actually buy games not planning to. That's a very, very different cognitive strategy. Like on the one hand, someone would say they wasted money because they bought the game and they didn't play the game, and on my hand, I didn't waste the money. I gave money to a developer I believe in. Whether I play it or not is value to myself, but I also value the people. Right? That's putting developers. You're investing in people first, for me personally, as opposed to investing in yourself. largely because one big caveat is that I don't necessarily need to invest in my lot more than others per se, because I'm in a happy place, safe space and a privileged space. If you need to self-improve, that's often that type of mindset. There's no reason to feel guilty, or in my opinion, for trying to create decision makings that elevate your value. Sometimes it can produce more frustrations, but that would be an entire discussion next time, where you buy on the expectation. Is there any game on your Steam that you haven't played yet? 60% of my libraries have not been played. I think over 60 or 70%. And I would say on a rolling basis, 20% of them are early access games. Usually. Like when another early access game roll into 1.0, at some point I'll roll into another early access game, I'll buy it. Like, this community looks great, this is a first time developer, something, I'll buy it. And then that's it. The game just sits there, and maybe one day the Steam library at the top would say 1.0 launch, and I would consider it. So that's how we roll. I think my library like caressed 1,000 games recently. Not too bad if I broke. And it's a disproportionate amount of money as well. So when I say, 60% of the games I don't play, that 60% is probably still less than the top 5% of the games I did play in value, like in just straight up monetary value. Like if I combine the 8 games I purchased on launch, it would pay for the 60% of the games I have not played, probably. That's how crazy disproportionate it is. So when it comes to understanding the perspective of money and your value, yeah, if you're asking me how do I part ways with $10 by giving someone $10, is I have perspective on, in my opinion. I have like a collective awareness of how I view the value of dollars, right? Those 60% in games, I don't know really how much money that I spent, but it pales in comparison to like ordering that nearly $100 copy, digital deluxe edition copy of Pirate Yakuza. That's how much I believe in developer in RGG Studios. So that amount pales in comparison to me saying, this developer is pretty awesome. I'm sorry if I don't get a chance to play your game, but I really think you have something. Here's $5. That's me going like, and here now it's even easier. Indie developers constantly collaborate to sell bundles based on themes. So like whenever a new deck building bundle comes out between like 3 unknown indie developers who now know each other, I'm like, oh hey, it's $15 for $30 worth of games between the 3 developers. I'm buying it. Because as long as the majority of those developers are people that I'm interested in or want to see continue finding games, I buy it. Dave the Diver, and Dredge. Those are the games I've actually bought in the year they were released. They were released in the same year. Technically, Dave the Diver is not indie. It's Mint Rocket. Mint Rocket is a subsidy, like it's a name under Nexon. However, the principle of their game and their design under a new banner and a new direction for Nexon games, right? I bought both Dredge. Dredge is an indie developer, and they collaborated right away. So because of their collaboration, I bought most of their stuff together, and I played both Dredge and Dave the Diver. Yeah. I think it might have been the year before. Yeah, it's the year before. It's right before. It's right before Infinite Wealth, and then before all this like. Yeah. And also a great example, WaniKani. right? That's $250, right? $250 almost eclipse all of my launch title expenses. And then it's $300 for Hansa Hero. So together in my language learning journey, this is faith in their developer and myself, right, included. So $500 is how strongly I believe in language learning. Not that you try to put a value on it, but oftentimes it's a great way to get some perspective on how valuable, quote unquote valuable, things are. 250 for WaniKani's lifetime subscription, and 300 for Hansa Heroes lifetime. Might have actually been 300. I think it's 350 actually. So I without saying like an aggressive way, I'm saying this with a smile and as a weird flex as possible. I put my money where my mouth is. I believe in my decision making very, very solidly. I can explain my motivations for collecting a Steam library, and it's interesting talking to other people's way of interpreting how they spend their money. And oftentimes, when it comes to like Steam libraries and game sales, the comments that I typically get from the other people are like, "Man, I just spend way too much money. I shouldn't be spending money on games and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way." I share my perspective as a way to perhaps offer a different take or different perspective on how one makes decisions. Typically, how I make decisions, among other things. So, yeah, money, without saying too much, go quite a long way for my happiness. It usually is not a form of regret or buyer's remorse, if you will. I feel like buyer's remorse is rapidly high due to the influencer powered world we live in now and fear tactics that we live in now. It's so powerful that even free stuff makes victims of. Yeah, even free stuff. People who use free, no actual monetary investment can become victims or feel like victims of predatory practice. So that's another rabbit hole to go down. What do you do when a friend wants you to play? I play it. But I guess the biggest condition is I ask them first and I evaluate. Are they going to? And when they say yes, I tell them and clarify what it means to play with me, right? So that we get the ground rules out. And usually, most of the time, the person would say, "Well, I can't commit," and I'm like, "Well, that's understandable. I'm glad we have established our conflict of interest." Right. I still play and dabble every once in a while. This is in the privacy of my own non-streaming life. Occasionally we pick up something, but I typically, if I don't want to buy it, I buy it. No reason. It's a friend. Why would I not buy it? Making excuses for friends sound like looking for the worst in people. If it's a friend, it's unconditional. I don't have a lot of friends, so when you say when a friend wants you to play, it's unconditional. I don't make it's a very, very tall hill to climb to become someone that is an acquaintance or a colleague or someone. Yeah, I don't make exceptions for friends. They're unconditional. If someone like, I think I have more realistic aspects, like as opposed to, let's not use video games. If a friend wants to go somewhere and they need to go somewhere and they ask me, I pick up my bags, go. non-negotiable. Friends are family. At least I treat friends. So maybe it's a Chinese thing. I don't. Unconditional. It's so difficult to have friends these days, as you probably could relate. Very difficult. Especially like I'm almost 40 years old, so typically, as one grows older, the quality of friendship increases. However, the quantity of friendship tends to stagnate. But you still, that doesn't mean you can't make more friends, but the quantity goes very like. So whenever I acquire a new friend, I make it so that I'm always available, or I try my best to be as humanly available as possible. That is my ideal way of demonstrating that. As opposed to like, my friends are open to asking me if I want to do things with them. The irony here is my best friends don't ask. We don't ask each other to do things until it's unconditional. Like, if my friends are in trouble, they probably ask me if I'm available, and I try to make myself available. So when we do like play games and stuff, that's usually not like a big deal. Optional. I know it sounds so backwards. You might be thinking, well, your friends, don't you guys want to hang out with each other and whatnot? It's like, we do. You just don't have the urge to do. I every like 6 or so months, like Eric and I, one of my friends, we would catch up, and then the first thing I would say, one of us is gonna say it. Sometimes it changes who would say. It's like, you know what? You know what's really refreshing about this interaction, Eric? It's so amazing that we could not talk to each other for 6 months or 3 years, and it takes us 15 minutes to feel like the time, like there wasn't any time apart. Those are the type of friends that I have, and it's a reflection of myself. So the irony here is, not a lot of friends ask me to do anything, because the friends that are closest to me are kind of like me. So we don't ask a lot. In fact, it is very difficult for us to ask each other to do things. The last time I hung out with Greg, which was Eric's brother, I have identical triplets, best friends. Greg, we hung out, and then in the process of hanging out, right, like scheduling it, 3 instances forwards that due date, he kept saying, remember, you're invited, no obligations, you don't really have to do this, like if it's inconvenient for you, you don't have to come, that kind of thing. That's the type of person me and my friends are. Like, we don't obligate people, and it's very difficult for us to ask. So when we do ask, it's a yes, no matter what. So if Greg asks me to do something, I say yes. And then Greg will keep pushing back over and over again. And I'm going to like, we have to do this. Otherwise, we'll never do anything. So those moments that we ever get together, they're like very, very important moments. And I wanted to offer that context because it's very different to someone who does it a lot. So if your friendship is built on constantly being together, then it's a different mindset. You would expect these things. You would be able to say no to some things and yes to something because you do a lot of things together. When my friend asks something, it's really rare. So I would like rarely, if ever, unless there's a physical boundary or some like thing that's preventing me, I would never say no. I would try never to say no, largely because we don't hang out. So flip mindset. The expectation is we rarely hang out, so we always say yes. And then when people ask us to do something, we always say yes. In fact, there are many times where my friend said yes because someone needed their help, and then they rain checked on something that we had scheduled because I invited them, and because I would say you don't have you don't need to be obligated to do this, right? You don't have to hang out. Like if you have time, that's great. Come on over, and they would say yes. However, someone else asked them for help, so they couldn't be there the entire time. And to me, it makes me feel better, and it makes them feel better that when they could help someone, they did. Like they don't need to be hanging out with me in order to make me feel better. Like so, it's one of those things. Maybe it's a cultural thing. It's usually not a cultural thing. They're not actually Asian. They're multi-generational American, and so this is something more of a trust situation. If you trust your friend and they couldn't make it, I unconditionally trust them. So there's something else that came up, right? In fact, they gave me the courtesy of explaining why they couldn't come up, like visit the entire time, and that's part of the routine. But they don't need to explain anything. Yeah, that's the defining feature. Those are the friends I have, where like if suddenly I told Greg, oh sorry Greg, something came up, and that's it. I probably wouldn't ever even have to tell him. If I didn't show up, I think he would be more like concerned, but then he would rationalize it, he would check. But most of the time it's like a lot of the things we do are courtesies to each other. Pretty great if you can find someone. Like I basically am describing some of the relationships that people have with their significant other, and that's great. I would love to have also a companion and partner like that, where maybe we could share a lot of time together, but at the same time also embrace a unconditional trust I have with my parents' dynamics and with me are very similar, right? I would tie my shoes and I'd be out the door, and my parents like, oh, so are you going out? And I'm gonna say yes, and that's it. I walk out. And the trust is that I would tell them if I ever need help with anything, but as long as we acknowledge that they notice I'm leaving, I acknowledge them. Very, very similar. Yeah, you love to have a friend. I'm sure you have a friend like that, right? I think when you do, it's pretty magic, and then that friend could end up being your significant other. You know, like what I mean is there's a continuum, and then there's like a same but different type of feeling to a lot of things. However, trust is unequivocal, at least in my opinion. And I still do that with strangers. Like the first thing I do is I invest, you know. What is a great way to present a first impression? And this is how I view it. It's kind of gonna have to draw a diagram. So I prefer to start with a big gate. People do the thing, I used to do this too, where so you have one person meet another person, right? Wow. And you have two different scenarios that use contrast, right? Wow, I can't really. Wow. So you have two scenarios, right? So we're just gonna call this A prime, B prime. One scenario is you can offer $1 in value of investment. We'll just use one USD. Or you can choose to go ham and offer $1,000 in figurative USD in like however you equate it. This is not literal dollars. We're talking about figurative value system. And here's my little meta. If someone is very happy And happy is measured in dollars. So if your dollars is a lot, right? You have a lot of dollars, you are more inclined to do this. If you're strapped for cash, so like trying to be happy, trying to get happy, and you're surviving steady state rate, right? You have like between this and this, then you gravitate more towards this because your resource is limited. This happiness, this spreading is limited. So you want to be cautious about how you spend that currency. And it comes back to the visualization that you carry as much as you can afford to lose. This is a kind of a quote from Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. You carry as much as you can afford to lose. So for me, I've set a lot of my currency. I've built myself up in a way that I'm quite happy in my life. So with that savings, I choose to offer a larger upfront investment. So when a stranger comes by, I try to offer what I think is far bigger than the competitor. The downside is that means I have less chances and more to lose. However, goes back to the idea that I carry as much as I can afford to lose. So this is a way, and this is one of my like working diagrams on trying to make figurative value systems like money, which that's something that people like to focus on, and re like frame it in emotional currency. So when people are very happy, they tend to be more philanthropic, largely due to the nature that they can be willing to lose that. So what is this currency system that we're talking about? It could be trust, right? Trust is underneath that, like in this, whatever this arbitrary number is, right? And those who are already hurting and constantly trying to meander happiness, often that trust is also a cost, right? In this magical range. And for me, it can be very hard for people to appreciate my optimism. It's not naive, it's not born out of naivety. Like oftentimes naivety can make someone think they have more money than they actually do, right? And I mean by have more happiness. So, for example, someone who is strapping for happiness is trying to help people to make them happier, to increase this flow, right? That is someone who would help someone expecting a return. If I treat you nicely, you would treat me nicely. Therefore, it makes me happy that I've made this decision. I treat people nicely, but I don't need the return. Largely because my mindset is that whether you return this act of kindness or not, I actually don't care. Like, I don't care in the way that I would hold you responsible. So when people say, "Oh, I'm sorry if I'm distracting you from your studies," it's like, no, the pleasure is mine. Like, I'm giving you my time. You don't have to pay it back in any way. Like, oh, sorry, I distracted you and derailed you, and now you're not gonna get things done. It's like, no, I chose to do this. And then obviously the person that I attract would say, you can always ignore me. You have no obligations to answer me. And then they're still there, right? So eventually, because of this large, tall gate, anyone who stays and accepts this large gate, while I have less chances and I have more to lose, I have a higher ratio of people that pass and stay on the first gate. So your quality ratio goes up past a specific gate, your chances you get to take plummet. And the only way I can scale this is I make myself happier. I can take bigger chances on having higher ratio quality of relationships, as opposed to you can go the other route, which is the utilitarian route. You can take as many chances as possible by divvying up your resources and then learn to invest. So that requires a different mindset. This means that you have a lot more chances, right? Many more chances. But you also have many more failures. But those failures cost less overall. So, in order to contend with this, you ask yourself, are you shy? Are you cynical? Do you have problems committing to something right away? And then frame it around like, okay, so how do I win, quote unquote, make progress in this system? I have to try many times. I have to be built around expecting this to happen. Like I have to do this a lot more in order to get the chances that I have. Over as opposed to having a mindset of what I have and then expecting a reality that doesn't match. So lots of people want to have my perspective, like a similar perspective in investment that I do. However, they expect the reality to look like this. So the reality is, if you're in my mindset, you are likely to have less chance to do things. When you get betrayed, it will hurt more. You've invested upfront way more on average, so it will hurt more, right? So that's incongruous with the idea that people think that they should be given lots of chances because they expect every interaction and transaction to be high quality. When you're expecting every interaction to be high quality, you are likely to not get lots of chances. I think one of the take homes a lot of times when I talk to people who are developing trust issues and whatnot, oftentimes those things are difficult to control. You can't difficult to control something you cannot control, which are other people. However, understanding that you can build something to perpetuate and help you cope and maximize your chance with adequate like mindsets can help with that. So if you're a person who's very cautious and don't commit to things, know that, okay, it's time to build a routine. Let's build a routine where I can maximize the number of people I bump into, maximize the number of people I can invest a little bit into and see where that goes, and also know and cope and understand strategies to help when most of those people don't turn out to be someone who's willing to take on your investment. Because if you're flinging around $1 worth of happiness all over, there will be a chance that some of them would be like, "Oh yeah, I can resonate with that. Here's my $1," and then you do an exchange, and it might fall through. For me, I'm like, "Here's $10,000. I'm gonna do this every once in a while. I don't bump into a lot of people, so I expect that whoever I bump into, I'm gonna give you a large amount." So how does this all relate? Content creation. Content creation works that way too. If I only have 2 viewers and 3 viewers, all my resources go to you. How much of that resource? Well, I'm not a content creator that has the false reality that if you only give $1,000, like if you only bring $1,000 to your game and you decided I only have 3 viewers, so I'm only gonna spend $1. Like this is figurative, right? $1 on them because you expect, right? You expect to have many chances. So when a content creator goes and say, oh, I only have 3 viewers and I'm only going to invest $3 because I expect to have 1,000 viewers, so that I can divvy up my 1,000 figurative happiness dollars, right? So you're only half partial investing in anybody that comes along. The odds of you growing into that 1,000 is unlikely. Now, at the point that you end up getting to this point, you'll be big enough that it's expected, because reality matches what your resource is. When you get to 1,000 viewers, you still only have 1,000 happiness dollars, then yeah, most people will expect that, hey, you only have enough happiness in your life. When there are thousands of people, it gets divided among that, right? And then you selectively have to determine where all that money goes, your figurative happy currency. For me, I haven't even chosen to do that yet. I have chosen that whoever comes along gets however much happiness dollars that I have for the day. That's you, Cozy, for today. So, fast forward an hour and a half, that's whoever comes along. My choice is to consistently invest all the dollars that I've allocated, as opposed to like, oh, today I should save myself for other people that I'm expecting. So I'm not expecting anyone. Like, maybe Sub-Zero might show up, like other people, but I divvy out the stuff unconditionally, right? So that means that later on, and I can show you a trade-off. Here later on, maybe like Sub-Zero shows up and I'm too tired, right? So hear me out. Like, this is not like always win. My perspective, that also means it's a first come first serve. There's a first come first serve issue, right? Because since I'm constantly divvying out happy dollars very early on, then that also means, like my friend's situation where we plan to meet up and then suddenly someone else asks for help, and that takes priority. And that priority must come with the understanding that there are few chances. Me and my friend will only have few chances to meet together, but we also understand that there are more important things that may happen, and our friendship is paramount. But it's not established on the idea of like any chance. It's established on the few chances that we can do for each other. So understanding that elevates the value. Like, I'm happy that my friend could help their friend in a crisis. I trust that that brings more value to both of us. What does that do? It instills trust that my friends know that I do not get upset if I don't put myself first. I put them first, right? And then they put other people first because it's not required between us, right? That's how, in my opinion, you can coordinate things together. I don't think it's exclusive. Obviously, it's going to be a balance of all these things, and you have many decisions you make in your life. But generally speaking, if the net consequence is that you're treating the reality, expecting something, and then you're acting in a certain way that doesn't lead to these most likely case scenarios, it leads a life of contradiction, and not in an intentional way or a malicious way or self-defeating way. It can be blinded, like you're upset, you're depressed, and you don't know why it keeps happening, that kind of thing. That sucks. So for me, I like talking about these things because I don't experience this too much anymore. So I watch other people do this. I watch how other people introduce themselves. I bring two people together, see how they interact. I know a little bit about person A. I know a little bit about person B. I try to then find a person B that may interact with person A, and then highlight the things that they have in common together. Hope that builds flexibility between the two. Like a single person, can do both of these things. They can choose when to do both of these, anything in between. A unhealthy person, like a person who's strapping on, doesn't have a choice. Like you have no choice. It feels like you have no choice, right? That's no choose. If you have no choice, then it feels like your life is outside of your control. So if you're constantly strapping for self-improvement, you're gonna have to do that first. Unfortunately, that's the double standard, and that's like the not the. It is different. So if you're always strapping for happiness, this is the approach. This will typically end up being the approach. And what I do see a lot of times is, I would say 80%. It's probably 80%. Let's be a little bit more consistent. I'm going to say more than 50% of people on the internet is in this territory, in this situation. They lean towards this situation. And then 40%, it's actually a little higher, but 40% is this one. I'm going to say like 30 because if you think about content creators that are successful, or people who are online who's showing how successful they are, they flow in this category. They may or may not invest in you, but they have the option of treating you as a low investment or treating you as a high investment. So they have choices, largely because they're probably very happy and have lots of happy dollars. Whatever that means. Literal dollars, self-esteem. Like self-esteem is a value of these happy dollars. And then the vast majority of other people, like 70%, are struggling. And again, we're not talking about financial. There are people who have lots and lots of actual money, but not a lot of actual happy dollars. They can be very, very depressed, cynical, malicious people with a lot of money. I'm specifically talking about happy dollars. And I don't have a lot of physical money. I hope people know that. I don't want to give the people the impression. I don't have a lot of money. I have a lot of happy money. So the best thing I can give to someone is to make them feel good about their day. That's what I can offer. I can't sell you products because I kind of refuse, or very resilient to selling you products. What I can definitely sell you, attention, right? And that's kind of where I am at now for streaming. You have a friend just like mine, but past year or so he's been working and with his girlfriend. That's understandable. Two of the three brothers are married. So that was an interesting transition in life. I can definitely I think both their wives are incredibly as well. Incredibly different people. Very different. So I'm kind of like sort of friends with their wives, but their wives are very different. Only they know their wives very, very well. Like I hard for me to it's kind of like if I have a partner, my partner is probably gonna be anyone. But the thing about being an agreeable person, you can be compatible with a lot of people, but at the same time, when unpredictable what happens, those type of friends then interact with them, and then it can be distance, take time away, change the dynamic, largely because the agreeable person will adapt to that, and I'm happy for that. He knows you and you know him, but you're hurting or need help, he knows to call you, vice versa. Yeah, that's awesome. Glad to hear it. I had once or twice confined. I think Eric knows what I'm referring to. I have once shared these sentiments as well. The nice thing about having individuals like that, kind of, you also have this like security of understanding that they will solve it as well. And I kind of believe that in you too, Cozy. As far as I know. As far as I know, give me the impression that You're going to get her done. We're done. All right. On that very optimistic note, yes, get her done. That's our digression for the day. I've been having these discussions in the middle-ish with Gecko. Gecko, Mr. Father, and happily married with a, what I would say, a very, very lucky and also probably wonderful daughter. I'm currently residing in Belgium. Yeah. And have a incredible passion for Japanese, among other things. We talk about lots of things regarding like time. I'm the people that I talk to tend to be on the older side, and I'm far more accustomed to talking about like kids, even though I don't have little ones of my own, right? I live vicariously. Have kids or have considered not. Actually, a large majority of my acquaintances have decided not children. So the vast majority of people I meet have children are actually online through streaming. I don't have a single existing best friend-ish territory, good friend-ish territory that has a child. And I am probably, even though I don't have a partner or companion, I'm probably the most likely person to have a child. That I laugh about this because certain personalities and certain behaviors don't really lead to making time or possibilities having a child, largely due to the weight of responsibility, all the crazy mania that can happen that deals with having a child. And I can totally get that. I totally get that. I think about it all the time, even though I don't have a partner or way of getting that ideal situation that I have in my head. I still continue to prepare for it because it's like, why not? I wouldn't ever know if one day I become like an uncle to a child, that nephew that requires some sort of guidance or something. Am I an uncle yet? I don't. Yes, technically I'm an uncle to a couple, but we're like distant, very distant. I don't know if such kids know, or not. No, not an uncle. Sorry, not an uncle. Because not an uncle. One removed cousin, one removed nephew. I'm not an uncle. Sorry, that's not how that works. In English, yes, in English, my sister is unmarried and do not have children. So I'm not an uncle, but I'm the first one removed relative. Yeah, your story with one of your ex was scary. I can imagine. Hearing scary stories can really leave an impression about those type of situations, right? I think about it, I think about the scary things. Here, this is probably gonna sound a little bit arrogant, maybe a little bold. When the way I try to cope with scary things is I take on their challenge. So that fear, I take it on, like, theoretically, right? Even if mania confronts me, like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like, what if it did? What if did? Right? I think I'll step up. Like, that's not, it's not like I'm confident I will step up to the task. It's the idea that I want to keep the mindset that I will step up to the task. So like language learning, for example, many people will say like, oh, if you don't practice pitch accent, it's going to be terrible in the future. It's like, well, if it's terrible in the future, I will step up. Like, I will do it, right? I'm not saying I can predict the future and it's guaranteed that I will step up, the idea is I keep the mindset that I'm not gonna let that drag me down. Constantly preoccupying yourself with how you'll feel before it happens can be for other people. It's not for me. Knowing that it can happen is fine. I recognize that these things can happen. From the day to day, I'm not gonna give those type of fear and stuff the time of day, right? I can talk to other people about the possibilities of happening. At the same time, I trust the process. Trust that when I'm living the life, like living as I'm going, I will find solutions, right? And that probably comes from the idea that I spend a lot of time solving problems. So that builds up confidence. It's not an assurance that I will succeed. However, it builds confidence that I can do it, right? Every victory, every problem I solve now is more and more durability and consistent for problems. So if I fail now, like I don't, obviously, um the stuff that I'm talking about, like about mental health and relationship and stuff, that comes with years of mediocre results, right? Talking with people, lots of people have emotional damage and things because I look for them. I run towards emotional damage and mental health and like struggles, even things that seem very trivial, like, oh, this person got a bad grade, but it absolutely wrecked the heck out of this person's confidence in like learning something because they haven't ever failed before. Those situations, they still become like mediocre results, like, but it's paved with years of interacting that. But then in the future, the thing that I can rely on is the confidence that in the moment I have years of experience of doing this and I continue to actively do this. I know it can still end up being the worst case scenario, right? You could argue it's inevitable or something, but I don't let that win from my day to day. Yeah, emotional damage. Really tough. My friend, one of my friend Greg is also juggling a lot of that stuff, and he continues to interact with people in that similar way. I think it really goes without saying that me and my best friends, yeah, the soundbite, yeah, emotional damage. I'm not gonna do it, okay? I don't have an impersonation of of Nigel Ong's uncle. I mean, not Nigel Ong's. Stephen He's impression of emotional damage. Actually, both of them can. Nigel Ong can probably do pretty decent since they both kind of play on the same trope. Anyways, yeah, in the future. Get back. Today is a chill day. I finished my like. Got some chill. Uh, you're trying to get over friend trauma. I hope I hope soon or at some point you not only get over friend trauma, you rework that trauma to be functional and useful. So like you won't even have to get over it. Not only that, it will become something instrumental to everything you do. Sure. That's I'm I'm hopeful that you go even beyond that. Right. Obviously focus on the present. Getting over friend trauma. That's wonderful. Oh, over friends trauma. Not your friend. Oh, like the concept of friends? But being with people? Yeah, okay. Not your friends. Oh, what I mean is like getting over the trauma itself, like the source of the trauma. I'm more focusing on the idea of you're using the word getting over something. Uh, Taking control of it is probably another word, a word that goes beyond getting over. Like you don't have to get over something. You can. I would hope way down the line you also take control of it, or at least feel like you have control. Will you say? Will you say more? Right. Let's see. Um. Ah, I typed oil again. What is up with me and oil? It's like baked in subconsciously. When I see old, I see oil. Hmm. Huh. Oops. Kidding. People pretending to be a friend pulled you into their group, then making a laugh out of you, then making you leave, etc. That sounds like something that would typically can definitely do. That's understandable. Yeah, people can definitely be like that. I can't profess to know how to deal with that at the moment. However, there are quite a lot of ways to mitigate type of occurrence. Um, I think I have one antidote for that. There were people who have told me before that originally they pretended friends, and then they revealed to me that I convinced them that they knew me differently, chose and looked at me differently after that. So there are potentially different outcomes. It happens with adult life also. Yeah, saying um your entire life, right? It doesn't stop now, and getting over it, when my opinion, think getting over this human condition would be like expecting humans suddenly change. Uh, my opinion. So, yeah, probably strengthening your own position. I can kind of see there's a lot of ways. I have once, or a couple of times, before, people pretended to be my friend, and I mean, I didn't know. All I did was I tried my best. And in the long run, those people, in retrospect, for like after a long time, they actually revealed to me that they thought I was a joke at first. So rather than spending a lot of time thinking about adult life and that people can be like that, I just go with it anyways. Your trust is hard even though you like helping. Yeah. The problem with that, yeah, that is probably one of the dissonance that can happen, right? My trust is because I like helping. So that also means that when my trust is broken, I know it came easy. Easy come, easy go. When your trust is easy, you're more likely to get taken advantage of. However, because my trust comes with lots of happy dollars that I can give, I do not feel betrayed nor increase in cynicism when it comes to help. So there are quite a lot of pretenders, like the people that you're talking about pretending. Happens all the time. It happened the last time we spoke, since the last day. Happened what? Last year? Happened about 12 times. Spent about 3 months. Three or 4 months on each person, and I don't know where they are. They continue to share platitudes and whatnot, like, oh, it's me, not you situation. That's fine. They're learning lessons. You gave me your time, so I'll treasure those times. Whether it was pretentious, right? And I know that the consequences of my trust being easy to come by is also a trust easy to betray, right? The more likely that I like to help people, my help is far more consistent because I continue to make my trust accessible. Unfortunately, if you're someone that is already struggling with your own inner demons of others, or overly concerned with it can be very hard to want to help people when your trust is coming with a lot of strings, right? It interferes with each other. On the one hand, you want to help someone, and then on the other hand, you don't want to help someone on the occasion of it, right? Like, what if these people are taking advantage of you? I don't want to help people who are taking advantage of. And my first thought was, I do it anyways, and then find out later. That's actually the story of my life at the time. It was to my detriment back in the day. I had trust that I could offer that I couldn't afford to lose, and that's where luck came into. When I was younger, right, much younger, I trust a lot of people, and I couldn't afford to get betrayed, but I did it anyway, and that put me in a really, really tough spot. However, that's when luck started playing a role, and that's usually when I go with a sappy conclusion that I was quite lucky in my life. If you're a caring and nice person, you usually don't have great outcomes. I'm using the word nice, not kind. Nice and kind are different things. Kind deals with a perception of need and a perception of self. So adults are kind. They are able to navigate how much they're willing to offer someone, and then have enough experience to kind of understand who they're helping. Like, is this person likely to betray me, or is this person opportunist? That's kindness, in my opinion, when it is viewed from two people. Nice is a kid who's innocent, who's like, I need friends. I'm going to trust whoever says nice things to me. And then that's unconditional. So you're just nice and blanketly. So what happens to nice people is ultimately you'll get betrayed, like a lot. So then it involves luck. You know, kids weigh luck. They don't weigh experience. And then when you go into adulthood, behaving like that, you hope that you get enough experience from being nice, that then you know how to learn how to trust specific people. And then when you're successful enough, like happy enough, have a lot of happy dollars, then you can go back to being young again. The why I always characterize the current landscape. I'm younger than I've ever been, right? I behave like I was a kid in many different ways. I blanketly trust people, even though adults should be more cynical, selective in the way they do things. However, there is one thing that's wonderful about having lots of resources. We're not talking about monetary resources, lots of happiness. Is that you can take risks again, and it kind of makes people young and younger, and that's in both the foolish and inexperienced way, and also understanding that you can. I'm learning to be tough and get away with it. Yeah, that's yeah. Like adults, I think it's like what you're saying is like I don't want to make it like a defeatist or a fatalist thing. It's part of getting old, right? And the ideal situation is that as you're becoming an adult and you're making all these more selective choices, you're also more successful at making yourself consistently happier, closure, family, and stuff. But, you know, sometimes you need a sprinkle of luck to get you started. Sometimes it doesn't work out. And luck does suck. It feels uncontrollable. So for me, yeah, I got lucky there. I trust people. Like I trust a lot of people, and they were basically just racist. Like I'm there's no way to beat around the bush. They were racist. They discriminated against. It's I haven't even ever told like some of the people that know me that you're like now actually an in-law of one of those people who are incredibly racist. And but the nice thing I want to keep back in my mind is that that person that made my life and betrayed my trust when I was younger, I hope that person is not that person anymore. Right? This is a true story, and I actually don't. I try my hardest to believe that person is different now. I hope they were loved. Their world got bigger, and then the next time, I mean, I'm sure this is okay. We were in the same wedding. Like, what I mean is, like, we attended the same wedding of this common friend. So, I think he's different now, right? That's what I believe in. So, I don't concern myself with all the bad possible things. I mean, the person could be the same, but I like to think of it differently. Of the cynical, even though you have plenty of that reminder on the internet. Yeah, that person is actually the in-law. It's one of the in-laws. And I didn't ever tell them that because we met after that. We met after. We were friends after the whole situation with the racism and this stuff. Crazy. Life, you know. Oh no. No. Again, like Cozy, you don't have to be sorry for long digressions anyways, right? I've already put down the happy dollars. It's like we already spent the happy dollars. You're not getting a refund. You know what this reminds me of? It's one of those things when my father does this all the time, and it's with actual real dollars, okay? So we would go and host, or like people would take turn hosting, right? For New Year, Lunar New Year's is coming up, so we would do hosting. And my parents really, really has this thing about like other people spending a lot of money just to host us. You know, like we go for like Thanksgiving dinner or something, and at the end, when all's said and done, when Thanksgiving is done and whatnot, my father would say like, so, how much do you want? Like, how much do you want? Like, and then my parents would be like, and then those people would say like, how much do you want? Like, so they would stay like just hanging around a checkbook, like who owes who money for being nice, and then neither party ever, like, they come up with the weirdest trickery to not like take the money. So like recently, my parents like doing favors because they're retired for the most part. My father's retired. He does things. He picks people up from airport. He drives 6 hours to the airport, drives back. It doesn't matter because he's retired. He has lots of happy dollars to go around. But then, you know, during Thanksgiving, someone is hosting our family, and that family finds the perfect opportunity. Like, oh, okay, here, and it'd be like a check for $500, right? And my father's like, "What is this for?" Like, they're like, you know, this is for helping out, and so it's like you don't need to do that. And then after all the fighting, right? Or like, it's play fighting, like, you know, he leaves, and then my mother's like, "So what are you gonna do?" It's like, I don't know. We're just gonna leave the check there. Like, it's like, just don't cash it. That's it. And I always thought like, how many times have my parents given someone a check, and then the other family gives my parents a check and nothing happens? Because I can honestly tell you, I don't think my parents nor that other parents usually keep their checkbooks that close. Like, what I mean is, they don't go through like making sure all their checks get cashed out or something. Because I can tell you, if I had to guess, both families probably have like a stack of checks where it's just like, what? You cringe when that happens, having checkbooks with friends or acquaintances. Yeah, it can be really tough. Like, in the world we live in, sometimes it can also be combative in a way. Like, I want, like, for example, what if this hasn't happened between me and my friends? What if I told my friends, you have to spend, like like you give them an ultimatum, like, if you don't spend this, I'm gonna feel awful. That happens quite really often in like situations of gift giving. Actually, it funny because we're learning Japanese right now. That actually happens very, very commonly in Japanese culture, and they have ways to circumnavigate this. It's the idea of gift giving, right? Um, like, my mother and father recently had an argument. My father purchased a lot of things in which gonna go and give them because it's New Year's. Lunar New Year's is coming up. And my mother is like, but if you do this, then they're gonna give back, and then this is a whole ordeal now, and that kind of thing. But in Japanese culture, that is actually a very common thing. So what they do, the joke is, this is a joke, by the way, and I'm a foreigner to Japanese culture. Um, they would do the natural mannerism is to downplay your gift. So like, the humbling thing, you might be thinking, oh, but that's part of Japanese culture or part of Chinese culture as well. You humble yourself, like, oh, don't worry, this is not a big deal. Meanwhile, it's like a signed record from Taylor Swift that you always wanted or something. So don't worry, it only took me like, I just happened to be next to Taylor Swift at a concert and got an autograph and thought about you, and it's like, it's no big deal. It's like, no big deal. And then meanwhile, the other person's like, whoa, this is a big, now what am I gonna do? Should I like go in? And it's a competition. It feels like there's a mannerism in the culture to downplay things, which happens a lot between me and my parents, and like maybe like different Asian cultures. I don't know for sure, but at least anecdotally, there's this downplay, but then there's also this hidden like, in competition, and it's a little bit, it still exists among like outside of this example, like diaspora, like outside of Asian diaspora. However, it comes in different forms. Like in the my Western friends, like they would even play this up to be funny, right? They would do it ironically, as in like, hey, my guy, I broke my back. Like I literally traveled 36 hours on a car, went to this specific gas station to buy this thing, compose the poem, and here's your gift. Like live it up. I've done all this, and it's supposed to be like it's a joke, ironically. Meanwhile, the other person's like, I bet I can do better than that. So there's like really funny different versions of it. And mind you, this one of the biggest collective commonalities between my friends are that we like to care for each other, right? So I'm not saying something in a situation that other people might not relate to. Like you might be a very pragmatic person and your friends are incredibly pragmatic, then they would talk dollars. You know, they would start talking about objectives and stuff. That can work out too. But for me, usually is I earn money to spend on other people. So my friends, by happenstance, will likely be very similar people. They have easier time spending money and spending their time for other people than themselves. In fact, that can become a problem, right? That's a problem that I said about self-love, and that that's a very balancing issue for people that are my friends. They tend to spend far too much time caring for other people or concerned about other people. And like social media, it can be devastating to people who care about other people, because then you have a increasingly overstimulated bleeding heart. And that bleeding heart makes you neglect your own well-being. One really real situation is someone who goes to alcohol abuse in order to deal with the idea that humans treat each other like garbage sometimes, right? So that can be very damaging to an empathetic person. And so I'm trying to like balance out the scope. Being nice, being overly nice and concerned and surrounding friends with also comes with its double edge, right? And then you can argue like, oh, my grandmother got scammed. It's like you think about it, it's like, well, yeah, if you're a very giving person, you're likely to get scammed. So there's a lot of real world pragmatism. I have been in circles of friends who are like incredibly professionally pragmatic. So they're like, hey, got you $50. I got you $50 for this place because I know you like using it. It's like, oh yeah, all right, buddy, I got you $50 to your favorite place. Nice. Consider this an equivalent exchange. I, I've witnessed this magic before. I call it magic because that's not how I negotiate with my friends, but I have noticed that's pretty cool too. When someone's like, hey, if I get you a gift, the net worth of $100, would you give me a gift for net worth of $100 and we can call it square for our Christmas? Agreed. And then that's it. Like that's how they negotiate. I'm like, whoa, that's really efficient. You don't have to like play second guess and dynamics and stuff. Meanwhile, I'm here like sitting here. It's like, man, how could I get a gift that I can give to my friends? That's part of me. It's irrefutable me. It has no tangible value, so they can't worry about the tangible value in which I used it. And meanwhile, I'm using like hundreds of my free time trying to brainstorm a gift. Meanwhile, these guys spent like 2 minutes. They're like, I'm gonna give you a gift card for $100 to somewhere, and I'm gonna give you a gift card. And then all that other time, they're just chilling and hanging out. Okay. So, you know, different friend dynamics that I've been associated. I participate in some of these. Like when you're gone drinking with friends and you buy them many rounds of drinks and don't want money for it. Yeah. And how much should I spend? Like, dude, uh I think a little bit later in my life, like when I had money, had expendable money, and I participated in social drinking, it was like someone's like, "Hey, man, do you want a shot?" And I'm like, "Okay, I suppose." You know, we have a shot. It's like, do you want a shot? That can get really bad very quickly. You know, like suddenly you're already competing with paying back at the point. So at some point, you know, adult responsibility sets in. It's like, hey, I'll get you next time. And then it's like, oh yeah, all right, because you got to stop the vicious cycle. I've some of these like drinking situations end up spiraling and enabling each other. There is a my secret sauce is, sorry, like just one, and then I need to wait an hour or two. I'm the designated driver. That's usually what I say. I was like, okay, you know what? It's early enough. I'll have this with you. I'll get you next time. By the way, actually, have one on me, but I won't drink the other one. I'll give it to someone else because I'm the designated driver, and that's how I like whoa. When you say you're the designated driver, you get less of that "you're a crazy person" situation. You know, like, ew, what a party pooper, man. Like, this person's not social drinking. Meanwhile, I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I'm okay. DD, designated driver. Like, I gotta, you know, someone's gotta take these goobers home. Preferably if they don't throw up in the car. uh, Good times. Good times. This stuff doesn't happen anymore. I'm thinking like my 20s, maybe early 30s. There was a few in the 30s. Fun times. The heck? While you're the goober yourself. Yeah. I still participate in social drinking. I think social drinking gives people an opportunity to like experience, like to distill some part of life. Lots of fondness. Uh um it's not purple. Uroku. No. Uh gotta Oh, this is the power ring. Uh, was what was the mnemonic for this? Oh, cookie. Yeah. Oh no, not again. Oh no no. That's still using it. Neat. Oh yeah, we got the old thing. Old. Are the same. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. I arimasu. The old does not refer to people. Think of it as old things. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was low. Ko. Oh, the read is ko. Hmm. Old things are misunderstood by the ko of the world. Oh, gee, that's actually quite nice. Note, come up with a ko character you can use for all the ko read. Ko character reading mnemonics going forward. This child will show up many times throughout your mnemonic journey and it will help. Just ko, not ko. Imagine a child looking at old things. Record player, a Game Boy, a cassette player. This just don't get old. When you see the radical, good chance it will be interesting. And yet, my prototypic example of this character is oh no, that's kind of weird. Yeah, Hurui. Chuko. Oh hey, secondhand Chuko. Dang, that is not secondhand in Chinese. Kodai. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about Kodai. Shinko. Oh, I typed oil again. What is wrong with me? I might as well just add oil as a synonym for old at this point. There's a chance I'm just gonna get it wrong again. All right, so we actually crossed 9 o'clock. So. Wait, that's it? Oh, and slide. Oh, those are the two that I messed up way back because I typed toe without the E and slide as barb. Those are my first two errors. That's why they were offset by time. All right. Well, that's it. Today was pretty relaxing. Yeah. So we're going to take 2 extra days before I do the Duolingo Chinese. Because if I start now or like tomorrow, then on the peak day of construct day is going to be level 3 days. Level 3 days is going to be devastatingly long. Take a longer break. Get used to reviewing Chinese stuff. And yeah. You Did I stop on anything for a substantial amount of time? I think we've gotten down most. We don't need to iterate on. Like Uchi is still a little bit slow, largely due to Sonic. Then we have Ya or Arrow, kind of a thing too. Well, actually, we can. All right, so let's go over our monics. Monics. Dial it in, right? Spoon, winter, dry, canopy, fingers, window, heart, direction, stool, fur, father, old, roof, task, arrow, door, poop, towel, life, now, hat, triceratops, sight, ice, right? It's okay. Mon, nai, bun, setsu, on, go, you, kai, go. Eh? No, wait. Hold up. Yeah, sure. E, in, po. Ne? Po. You. Chi. Oh. De, sho. Fuyu. Hoku. An. Po. Dai. Guy. E. Not sure. Wait, let me look at on. E. Iro. Aha. Go. Yeah. Yeah. Am I drawing a blank on you? Oh, sen, sho. Di. Yes. I think those are still. So what did I stop on? I stopped on Chi. Yo. Se and Sho, which is related because the mnemonic is more related to Se and Sho. Yeah, that's about it. Not too bad. We had some digressions today. Very smooth smelling, very smooth sailing. 2 hours of some chit chat, you know, more things about quality of life, that kind of thing. I kind of like my analogy of happy dollars. I think that should be a thing. Maybe not so much right on the nail on currency. I should draw something for happy dollars. Wow, 0 radicals in apprentice. So that's interesting. They're just, I needs me some more radicals. In 2 days. 2 days. Okay. A pretty steady. Yeah, you know, it's roughly like 50 until the next stack, until it restacks again. Yeah, this is really manageable. Yeah, how small this So, oh, I think Hanzahiro is higher now. Yeah, it's higher than this. Hanzahiro, because we changed it to 20 items, 20 lessons on top of the plus. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Hopefully, maybe some of you found some of that interesting. It's kind of related to language learning. I didn't double back on language learning, but maybe that will be a challenge for another time. In the back of my head, lots of the things I talked about in terms of like happy dollars, helping other people, meeting new people, talking to them, and investing and committing, that communication. And the way I was going to relate it back was the ability of making yourself available in order to have opportunities in which you target language, right? Oftentimes for me, that's the lowest resistance when it comes to the step in which you have to find someone who's willing to talk to you. Charity and being invested in something have like twofold uses. It encouraging the other person to be interested in themselves while also revealing that you're interesting. That is a very strong balancing act. However, for me, I think that's skills that I, through a lot of practice, have come to rely on. So oftentimes the skill that I'm probably least practiced on is doing something like hyper focusing on very particular semantic knowledge. Because largely, a particular hot take, while I do not place a lot of value on my semantic knowledge expertise, I do have the proficiency, at least in my opinion, to explain what my semantic knowledge and expertise are. So that prevents me from overselling myself based on knowledge, and and that's kind of the segue I was gonna, the digression. Don't really need to. So for now, we're gonna end. Honey, we're wrapping. Welcome back, Cozy. No errors, no mistakes, just light brainstorming here and there, so we don't have to write about. So for all the WaniKani enthusiasts out there in Japanese, later, arigatou gozaimasu, or arimasu, amasu. The colloquial thank you very much. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna get up, walk around now. Minasan, yane, matane, right? And go to the bathroom, stretch a little bit, and I'll be back for a hunt. Thank you.